Welcome back to Nutty Education, and on this episode I'm gonna explain to you with very valid points that nobody can argue against exactly why everybody, no matter what their race, no matter what their skin colour, why everybody should be allowed to say the N-word or the word nigger, whatever one. Everybody should be able to say that word. And right now we have this mindset that only black people can say it, or only people with some percent of black, mixed race, a quarter, as long as they've got some percent of black, they can say it. But everyone else who's not black, they're not allowed to say the word. I want to tell you exactly why that is bullshit. And I promise you, if you stay to the end of this video, you will have the most valid, solid reasons that I very much doubt anyone can successfully debate. So here it goes. So the first valid point is that words evolve. Words, they mean different things in different eras of time. They don't always have the same definition till the end of time. I'll give you an example of a word evolving. Look at the word gay. A long time ago, the word gay, it was used by people to call other people happy. If I was to say, that guy's looking gay today, that would mean that guy's looking happy today. But now, in the modern day, the word gay is used to describe a homosexual, a man that loves a man, or a woman that loves a woman. That is what gay means now. So that word has gone from meaning happy to meaning homosexual. That word has evolved. And that is exactly the same with the word nigger. With the N-word, the word nigger, it used to be used by white slave owners to call their slaves the N-word. There used to be that racist meaning. Now, in today's world, I guess it's still, if you want to be technical, if you want to get a dictionary and look in a dictionary, yes, it technically has that meaning. However, in today's world, let's be honest, most people do not use it in that meaning. Most people call another person nigger when they're calling them their homie, or their bro, or their dude, or their guy, or their friend. You get the point. That is how we currently use the word nigger. If I was to say, this is my nigger Jack, I'm not saying this is my slave Jack. I'm saying this is my bro Jack. This is my homie Jack. That is how we currently use the word. So yeah, words evolve, and the N-word, nigger, is one of the words that have evolved. And not only has it evolved, but it has evolved into such a mainstream, popular word that you basically can't avoid it. Every song you listen to nowadays, they say the word nigger. It's a very popular term, and it's popular in the context of saying that's my nigger, not in the context of calling someone an actual nigger, because it is all about context. If you use the word with the dictionary definition, calling someone a nigger, like an actual slave, then of course that's racist, and of course I'm not gonna defend that. That is wrong and racist. You can't stand for that shit. But if someone's using the word in the context that we do it in today's modern world, in the evolved context, when we call people, yeah, that's my nigger, when we're using it in that context, it's not racist. And anyone, no matter what their skin colour, no matter what their race, they should be allowed to say it. But that's only the first point. Now we got the second point. Now the second point is quite simple yet overlooked. And the second point is the N-word is simply a word. It's literally a word. Now, how can you have an expectation in your head? How can you actually expect an entire race, white people, and not even an entire race, multiple races, because it's all races that aren't black, How can you expect all races that are not black to just not say a word? How can you genuinely sit here and have that expectation? If you expect the whole world to just comply with your mindset, if you expect only the black people of the world to say the word, and you expect the millions and billions of non-black people to just comply with you and your mindset and not say a word, you are setting yourself up with that expectation. You're setting yourself up for disappointment and to be offended. You're just doing it to yourself, because that expectation is so unbelievably stupid. You just can't expect millions of people to not say a word. It's literally a word. We all have a voice box. We all have a voice, a mouth. We can say whatever word. We can say some gibberish, gobbledygoo word if we want. So why can we not say an actual word that exists? Just imagine if a white person was singing along to a song, and that song, there was the lyric nigger in it. Do you expect that white person to sing the whole song normally, and then when that one word comes, they have to be silent? That is the dumbest expectation you can possibly have. And that leads me perfectly into the third point, which in my opinion is the strongest point. And that third point is this: either everybody can say a word, or nobody can say a word. How can you possibly give different coloured people different rules? How can you give black people and white people separate rules? Especially when it comes to something like a word, something that anyone can so easily say. How are you giving different coloured people different rules? Black people, they're allowed to say it, and white people, they're not allowed to say it. How can you do that? Do you know what the most ironic thing about this entire issue is? If you're one of the people that does what I just said, that gives different coloured people different rules, if you're one of the people that says yes, black people can say it, but no, white people can't, if you're giving these different coloured people separate rules, you, ironically, you are the one being racist, and you are the one keeping racism alive. Because think about this, you are literally, this is actually literally what you're doing with that mindset. You are literally dividing people into two separate groups. You're saying, this is black people, this is one group, and this is white people, this is a separate group. And these two separate groups, they have different rules. This group, the blacks, they're allowed to say a word, and this group, the whites, they're not allowed to say a word. By doing that, you have literally divided them into separate groups, which is the very thing that keeps racism alive. You're being racist by saying, because my skin is not black, I can't say a word, because you're literally saying, if my skin was black, there'll be no problem, but because it's not black, there is a problem, so you're the one being racist. But on top of that, you've divided them into these two separate groups, you've given them these two separate rules, and that is exactly what keeps racism alive. Because if you truly want to kill racism, I want everyone to listen to me right now. If the world truly wants to kill racism, if you truly want a racist-free world, you have to treat everyone, no matter what their colour or race, you have to treat them the same, and that means giving them the same rules. The moment you start giving them separate rules, this one can say a word and this one can't say a word. The moment you do that, you're creating racism, you're keeping it alive. If you want to kill racism, you got to see both of them as the same. You got to give them the same rules, and that means either everyone says it or nobody says it. The only exception possible is if someone is using it in a racist manner and they're actually calling them an actual slave nigger. If they're saying that, different story. Because as I said before, it's all about context. You use it in a racist manner, that's bad. You use it in a non-racist manner, that's good. And if you're one of the people that gets offended by a non-black person saying nigger in a song, if you're offended by that word being used in a non-racist way, then you are forcing the shoe to fit. You're forcing yourself to be offended. If they're literally not calling you a nigger, and if they're literally not saying it in a racist way, why the fuck are you offended? Are you that much of a little delicate piece of paper? Are you that fragile? You are forcing yourself to be offended. You are forcing the shoe to fit. So don't be saying you're offended at someone using it in a non-racist way if they're not black. Stop forcing yourself to be offended. And one more bonus point I want to say, just to get this out there as well. Some people say our ancestors, they were slaves, and that gives us the right to say the word. And your ancestors, they were the slave owners. That means you can't say the word. I've heard a lot of people say that. Now that right there is nothing more than an excuse to be offended. It's an excuse to force yourself to be offended. Because think about this. You who had ancestors that were slaves, please tell me, what was their favourite food? What was their favourite colour? What was their favourite day of the week? What was their favourite hobby? Please tell me exactly. You don't know. You don't know shit about your ancestor. You know nothing about them. And yet you're using that as an excuse to be offended. You don't even know your ancestor. And the white people, the non-black people whose ancestors were slave owners, that was not them who were slave owners. That was their ancestor. Just like you are not a slave. Your ancestor, they were the slave. So by having that mentality that I can say it because my ancestor was a slave and you can't because your ancestor, he was the slave owner, that is the equivalent to me having beef with someone because my dad had beef with their dad, or my granddad had beef with their granddad, and me carrying on that same beef to the next generation. It is the same mindset, it's the same equivalent. You know, like when a school kid has a fight with another school kid because maybe his dad doesn't like the other school kid's mum. It's the same mindset. You can't be carrying that hate down. We have to be the generation to break the loop, to break the cycle. We have to be the ones to leave the past in the past, leave that all in history, and focus on today. On today's world, we need to end racism. We need to see everyone as equals, give everyone the same rules. I don't want people calling black people slaves. I don't want that. I'm against that. But what I do want is non-blacks to be allowed to say the same word that a black can say. Because when you start making that division and giving different rules, you keep racism alive. So as harsh as it sounds, I know this is going to sound harsh, and I know this is a bitter pill to swallow, but if we want to kill racism, we have to forget about the past, forget about the ancestors, and focus on the present. We have to make sure the world today is not racist. If we keep holding the bad things that happened to our ancestors, if we keep that in our heart, if we keep that hate in our heart, it's just going to poison today's world. We need to leave that poison back in the past and fix the world now. That's what I've got to say to you. That is my nutty education for the day. Do not get offended if a non-black person says nigger in a non-racist way. Please don't force yourself to get offended. If they call you an actual nigger, like a slave, different story. you're justified to uppercut their face. Fair enough. But if it's in a non-racist context, don't force the shoe to fit. You're the one keeping racism alive. And that is not helpful to anyone. That's my nutty education. That's all I've got to say. Until next time, peace, bitch.
Fuck it, let me YOLO on that pogo, bouncing like a yo-yo. She a ho-ho, give a dick